Well, welcome back. In this episode, Democrats issue a chilling threat against anyone helping Trump achieve his policies. The White House dismantles false immigration claims made by Tim Walz and makes a bombshell announcement. Now, stay with me till the end of this stream because I'll be responding to your comments as we go along in the chat. And I'll be giving my final common sense take on every story that we cover. And don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and share this video. Let's get started with our first story. Hakeem Jeffries has essentially done what we saw Letitia James do when she threatened President Trump by saying that as soon as he leaves our office, that he was going to prosecute him. Now we're going to do a callback to the Letitia James threats because sometimes it appears like we have short-term memory. So let's play what she said and then listen to Hakeem Jeffries. Then you let me know if that doesn't sound like a threat that they will be carrying out.
Focus on Donald Trump. We need to follow his money. What is fueling my soul right now is Trump.
This illegitimate president. I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, and then going home.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president.
So that was Letitia James announcing long before Trump left office that they were going to go after him. Now, here's Hakeem Jeffries doing the same thing. And the Democrats are the ones who claim that the justice system is being weaponized against them. But they're the ones who essentially weaponize the justice system against the people that they hate long before they leave office, because this was announced. We all saw it. Okay, we can't say that they're being falsely accused now, because here's Hakeem Jeffries saying the quiet part out loud.
The one thing that should be clear to all of these Republican extremists and sycophants and the people who are either actively involved in corruption, violating the law, engaged in extrajudicial activity, is that the statute of limitations for any crimes being committed now 5 years. It will extend well beyond the end of the Trump administration.
Can he name any extrajudicial activity that's being carried out by people in the Trump administration or operating under their orders? They've been asked for days now to mention one. They haven't. They keep floating these fictitious illegal orders that President Trump and his team have made. Just a few hours back, they accused Pete Hegseth of war crimes. Okay, like everything that we predicted last week after the Seditious Six released that video is playing out exactly like we predicted. Here you have the leader of the Democrat Party trotting out in front of the cameras saying that anyone who performed extrajudicial activities would be prosecuted, and telling them that that the statute of limitations is 5 years. Now, I know that there'll be people who run interference for the Democrat Party, and there might be people who vote Democrat saying, "Oh, there. That's not what he means." All right. But let's listen to language. And if language means anything, and if we're intelligent people and honest people, we know what he's saying. Now, first off, we had the Seditious Six. First, it was the videos telling troops to defy orders. Now, Jeffries is hinting, go ahead, obey Trump, we'll get you in 5 years. Okay. Now, if that doesn't sound like intimidation, I don't know what that is. All right. Now, when you look at how they treated Obama and Biden, okay, and how they are threatening to treat Trump, in fact, not threatening, but they did that already after Trump's first administration. And now they are threatening this 5-year accountability for the current administration. I have one question. Where was this 5-year accountability talk when Obama was droning American citizens, or Biden was evacuating Afghanistan and handing over billions of dollars worth of military gear to the Taliban. Okay, where is the accountability where the horrendous decisions that they made under the Biden administration has cost the lives of 2 National Guardsmen? Where is the accountability? Where is the outrage about how the claimed vetting of these security risks was perfect? It was done so well. Where is the outrage? Why aren't they calling for accountability there? It's all the hypocrisy that we continue to see. We continue to talk about it, and then, here we have magically, they're talking about statute of limitations on crimes that haven't even been committed. If crimes have been committed, why don't you list these crimes? All right, now in the chat, all right, do you think this is about protecting the law? I'm just going to play dumb for now because, like you all know, I don't live in the United States. I'm going to play dumb. Okay. Do you think this is about protecting the law or protecting the power of the Democrat Party? All right. Say yes, you think it's about protecting the law. Or no, you know that it's not about protecting the law, but establishing the power of the Democrat Party. They blatantly step outside and levy these threats against people who don't vote their way or who work with the administration that they hate, to send a chilling effect down the ranks that says, if we find you cooperating with the Trump administration, we're going to go after you in 5 years. We saw them do this in the Biden years. And if they say they're going to do it, you have to believe them. Now, if you truly believe in the rule of law, all right, I believe that you wouldn't go on TV and threaten 5-year political vengeance against troops, officers, or appointees for simply doing their jobs under a president you hate. Anyone with goodwill and common sense would understand that you don't do that. All right. You investigate actual crimes. If you see that actual crimes are being committed, you denounce them openly, you list them during this press conference, and then you say, okay, these are the crimes that we're going to go after you for. You don't step up there and pre-announce a future purge. Okay. These are the kinds of things that Democrats do. And it baffles me that good people vote Democrat. I don't understand it. I'm still trying to understand it. And maybe while you're in the chat, help me understand that. Okay. Now, Caroline Levitt has been speaking on behalf of the president, talking about the refugee crisis, of course, with 2 National Guardsmen dead and with all of the attack against uniformed personnel. Conversations around the legitimacy of immigration processing keeps coming up. And there are statements being made claiming that that there's some benefit to compassionately bringing in these people who hate your country. Here's Caroline Levitt essentially clearing the air on that piece of information.
Said, and I quote, leaders also have a duty to preserve the integrity and character of our nation's national identity. Can you explain what you mean by our nation's national identity and integrity and character, and how would refugees, people coming from war-torn places who are seeking a safe haven in America, like many of our forebears in this room, not add to our nation's integrity and character of our national identity?
Okay, I want to play devil's advocate here. He might be asking a very innocent question. He might be saying something that people are thinking, and he's just like, can you clear the air on this? Or he might just be trying to get a soundbite that they can use on mainstream media. In the third world country I come from, Nigeria, for decades there was conversations around a national identity. What it meant then and what people understood it to mean was having a Nigerian representation in everything we did, okay, and not trying to bring in any culture that was not representative of the conservative values of Nigeria. I believe that that everyone should be able to understand that whenever that term is used for the United States, it simply means the character and the personality that the United States has carried for hundreds of years. Okay, that is the national identity. And please, let's not start bringing up the whole issue of slavery. It's not about the slavery, all right? Just like a person's personality isn't about using the washroom, okay? Simply because you do something that is unseemly or unsightly, that's one thing you do or did at one point in your life that you have changed should not determine the entirety of your history. Okay, so let's keep listening.
I'll tell you what does not add to our nation's character and integrity is refugees who come here under the alleged plight of asylum and fleeing persecution, and then come to the United States to abuse our system and rip off American taxpayers. And as I pointed out, the New York Times, to their credit, it was about 6 months too late, but they did write about how Somali immigrants in Minnesota have been ripping off American taxpayers. In fact, 86 people have been charged in a rampant and widespread fraud scheme spanning multiple programs in Minnesota. Of those 86, 78 of those people are Somali, 91% of them charged. So far, 59 of those people have been convicted for their roles in fraud plots that have stolen $1 billion from taxpayers. In one scheme, and this is egregious, a nonprofit and its affiliates with these Somali migrants claimed to have fed tens of thousands of American children during the pandemic. They were reimbursed for those meals by taxpayers. However, federal prosecutors found that almost all of those meals were never even delivered to hungry children. In fact, those organizations' leaders spent the money on houses, luxury cars, and real estate in Turkey and Kenya. Another scheme involved hundreds of organizations who were reimbursed for services that were supposed to help people at risk of homelessness. Once again, those services were never provided. All of this has happened under Democrat leadership in a Democrat-run state where these refugees, these migrants are coming to the United States. They are abusing our system. They are draining our resources that should be going to law-abiding, taxpayer-funded, tax-paying Americans. And this president is not going to put up with it anymore. Rachel.
Thank you, Caroline. Just to follow back up on the Washington Post reporting, so much of the concern from Democrats and Republicans is focused on the survivors. Why won't the administration either confirm or deny or reveal whether or not there were survivors after that initial?
All right, so that's about the boat, the narco boat that got bombed by the military off the coast of Venezuela. All right, now. Whenever you see these reports about the fraud being committed by these immigrants who come to the United States, a land of opportunity, and yes, they start out these companies and claim that they are doing these really good things. But in the end, when you find a large percentage of them have been engaging in fraud and much of the money goes to terrorist groups in Somalia, all right, wouldn't you be outraged? Shouldn't you be outraged that millions and millions, possibly billions of your taxpayer funds wound up in the hands of terrorists and are now being used to attack innocent people all over the world? So whenever statements are made and it all begins to be watered down into a racial argument, I think it's dishonest, and more conversations, more honest conversations around what's actually going on in the United States needs to be had. All right. Now, so the whole issue about discussing the race of the people who are committing these crimes and fraud shouldn't be on the front burner. What should be on the front burner is the fact that these people who are welcomed into the United States and given opportunities that people would give their 2 kidneys for, come in, betray the United States, and then everyone acts shocked because we're calling it out. All right. To me, that is insane. Now, the same people who currently, have mocked concerns about unvetted Afghans and mass migration are now silent when their own papers admit that the fraud that's happening in states like Minnesota and Michigan are essentially staggering. Okay. So let me know in the chat, okay, your thoughts. Should every refugee-linked nonprofit be audited top to bottom? Okay, this is a very controversial question. People will say it's profiling. They'll say you're targeting minorities who are trying to, have a great start in life. Well, blame the other minorities who shit in the water before the rest of us came to drink. That's what you should be doing, not blaming the people who are trying to fix the problem. And you know what? If law enforcement arrests and prosecutes people like that, then maybe other immigrants starting businesses and trying to do nonprofits will behave themselves and be honest about the dealings they have with the American people. But that's my take on on that. So making it about common sense has to be what we do. And if you open your arms, and your wallets and essentially your country to people, in the name of compassion, and they turn around and steal billions in fake child feeding scams and bogus Medicaid claims, you don't need to get lectured about xenophobia, because you're asking hard questions. All right. So I think the tightening of the programs and the prosecutions need to start happening. I need to start seeing these arrests. Okay. I don't know about you. So let me know in the chat. Do you want to start seeing these arrests? Do you want accountability? Or do you want political correctness? Because as long as your money keeps going to these people, they get more powerful. They get to choose. Eventually, they get to start lobbying, at Washington, D.C. for policies that aren't favorable to you and your children and your grandchildren. Right? So, I mean, it's just a second order effect. Something happens today, but it's going to affect stuff that happens in 50 years. So you better stop the corruption now. Okay? There has to be accountability. That's what I'm going to say about that. All right. Now, before we jump to the next story, please let's know your thoughts in the chat. We're going to be engaging in the chat. If you have thoughts, we're going to be reading the chat. All right. And if you like this easygoing way we're covering the news and actually trying to go through the facts, and you like what you see, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video. But if you don't do any of those things, it's fine. Okay, you're welcome to stay and watch and leave a chat. I mean, I would love to know your thoughts. Okay, all right. But thanks for your support. Thanks for being here, and thanks for hanging out. All right. Now, Mark Kelly, one of the seditious six, all right, has been pressed again and again, asking what are the illegal orders that he claims that President Trump has issued. All right. And here's his answer. I mean, we're going to hear this ground-shaking, earth-shattering reason why they made that video.
Sort of flimsy legality that was being offered during the briefings. Were these sort of strikes that are now in the news what you were making reference to when you posted that video telling members of the military that they needed to feel okay just obeying orders that they felt were illegal?
Based on who this president is and who the Secretary of Defense is, and specifically things that the president has said in the past and things he was talking about doing in the future. Let me give you an example. 2016, he's talking about something on a debate stage that was clearly illegal. And he was reminded by Brett Baer from Fox News that that would be an illegal order. Military won't do that. You know what the president's response was to that? The military will not refuse my orders. Implying that even if they are illegal, they will not refuse them. He's also talked about shooting protesters in the legs. Then he's talking about deploying more troops to American cities and using those cities as training grounds. Do you know what that means? That means using the American people for the military to train on. So we were looking forward to try to head something off at the pass that could have been really, really bad. So it wasn't about this specific thing.
So there you have it. President Trump committed crimes. He has issued illegal orders. The military has been told to destroy American cities, to run war games in civilian populations. Casualties are mounting. Come on. The dishonesty and the evil intent in releasing that video. I mean, look, you can run cover for them all you want, right? And I'm referring to mainstream media and people who are like diehard leftists who want to see America become a communist state, right? You can run cover all you want, right? We hear what you're saying, we see what you're doing, we see you, we hear you, and America has rejected this insanity, all right? Now, Kelly admits that Trump has not issued any illegal orders, but he keeps defending the sedition that they put out. He still defends the video telling troops to refuse hypothetical illegal orders that he can't even name, all right? He's poisoning the well because it's like the boy who cried wolf. You keep crying wolf, 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 wolf. Eventually, when the actual wolf shows up and you scream for help, nobody cares, all right? In this case, it's more like you tell people, hey, there's this illegal order coming, all right? Don't just second guess everything. And when it matters that the military obeys the chain of command without question, and American lives are at stake, and they second guess those orders, lives will be lost. And you know what? They will jump in front of the camera like this hypocrite is doing right now, and they will blame President Trump. Okay, so let's not mince words, and let's not play these games that they're playing. All right. Now, if a Republican had done what they did, if they had six Republicans do a video attacking Obama, saying that he was going to issue illegal orders and that the military should not obey him, what would the Democrats do? Oh, the press. What would the press do? Forget the Democrats. The press would go on a field day. Oh, they're racists. True to form, the Republicans are the party of racists. They are racist against a black Democrat president. Okay? That's what they would say. You know it, and I know it. Now, when you spend a week calling the National Guard slave patrols, Nazis, and warning that they'd shoot protesters, and then a National Guardsman gets executed in Washington, D.C., right? I don't think this is the time to lecture Trump on him going too far. The Democrat Party they crossed the line a long time ago. They did, all right? So let me know in the chat, is Mark Kelly essentially more dangerous as a senator than he ever was while he worked in the military? Because at this point, being a senator gives him pull and credibility. And he's essentially put out signals in the ether saying, this president is going to do something illegal. Brace for it. Second guess everything he asks you to do. All right. So let me know in the chat what you think. Now, everyone who's common sense, who hears this report, and who has an honest mind, will believe that, look, if you can't point to a single illegal order, do you go on camera as a former officer to tell troops to preemptively ignore their commander-in-chief? All right. That doesn't sound like whistleblowing. That is planting doubt inside the chain of command. Mark Kelly knows how dangerous this is. He was in the military, and that makes it even more despicable that he does this. He knows what active duty people face whenever they rely on the chain of command to execute orders and execute missions and come home safely. The ability to do that will determine whether they live or die. But he doesn't care. He wants the Democrats to make Trump look bad. He wants to weaken President Trump so that they can have talking points. And that is beyond evil as far as I'm concerned, that you put lives at stake because of your politics. Well, someone will say in the chat, well, that's how the world has always worked. All right. The politicians always put the soldiers and the grunts at risk for their own politics. It's always been that way. But that's not the world that we all grew up in, is it? Or maybe I'm a sweet summer child who didn't know that all of this was happening in the background. Okay. So let me know your thoughts in the chat. All right. Now, the White House recently released a fake news portal. All right. And the mainstream media is losing it. Okay. So we're going to watch this clip and then you let me know your thoughts about this this introduction, because personally, I'm excited because I'll let you know my thoughts after we watch this.
Today launched a new fake news portal, which I found interesting. What is your objective with that, ultimately? And are you going to name the news networks? And are you also going to name some of the correspondents, some which may be here today?
Yes, we are. I'm glad you noticed. Much to the dismay of some of your colleagues in the room, John. And I think it goes to our original promise on day one to hold the media accountable, because unfortunately, and we deal with this all day, every day around here, there are so many fake stories that are unfortunately written that have inaccurate characterizations of meetings that took place, and it's all based on anonymous sourcing. And you know, the standard for journalism unfortunately has dropped to such a historic low in this country. And again, we deal with it every day, where you can have an anonymous source who has no idea what they're talking about, zero credibility, call up a reporter in Washington and say, hey, I heard this, and then the next thing you know, it's on the front page of the New York Times. It's really incomprehensible. We appreciate the journalists, some of those who are in this room who do reach out for comment, who try to get things right, and there are some that remain. But overwhelmingly, the fake news that we see pumped out of this building on a day-to-day basis, it's honestly overwhelming to keep up with it all, and to constantly have to defend against these fake news and these attacks. And I will point out one fake news story over the weekend before I let you all go, from the New York Times that took about 1/3 of the president's daily calendar and his daily schedule and said that he's doing less than he did in his first term, or he might not be fit for the job. That is unequivocally false, and it's deeply unfortunate that this story was written by the same outlet and the same reporter who wrote this: Biden is doing 100% fine after tripping while boarding Air Force One. Oh, same outlet, same reporter who wrote that President Trump is not fit for the job. Are you kidding me? You all see him almost every single day. He is the most accessible president in history. He is taking meetings around the clock. Another one. Biden declared, quote, healthy and vigorous after his first presidential physical. I don't see headlines like that too often about this president. Again, same reporter, same outlet who wrote falsely over the weekend that President Trump is not fit for the job. I can assure you he absolutely is. You all see that with your own eyes on a daily basis, and the president's physician has now given you all 3 detailed reports on the state of the president's health. So with that, I will leave you all and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Brilliant. I think personally, I think the White House having this portal up to fact check everything that these charlatans put out. I mean, I know right now I am, sounding like I am leaning heavily in favor of the White House, but I'm tired of lies. I mean, aren't you? I'm tired of hypocrisy. I'm tired of being told that something is true. You take action personally. You take action with family and friends based on what the media tells you, and then you find out a few years later that you were being lied to and that you damaged relationships as a result of those actions that you took, because the media told you that anyone who votes for President Trump is evil. Like, I mean, I have friends who told me, I have at least one friend who said to me, that he's disappointed in me that I could actually support President Trump's policies. Okay. And you know what? It's on him. Because for years, I've always known his position when it comes to politics and when it comes to morals. I've always known his position. And I didn't say to myself, I'm disappointed in him. He's an adult. He makes his own decisions. And I basically decided, okay, that's how he wants to live. I will coexist with him that way. But when people find out that you are supportive of common sense policies, they want to ostracize you. They want to silence you. they wish you don't have the voice or the platform or even the ability to communicate your thoughts, because he kept trying to argue his points with me and failed woefully every single time, got frustrated and made that statement. They always resort to division, to fear, to trying to say that things are one way, meanwhile they're simply lying. Okay. Now, so should the White House keep public receipts on fake news? Let me know in the chat. All right. Or do you think this is just going to make the media go even crazier? I think both. I think, yes, the White House should keep receipts on fake news, call them out. The White House will have lots of visibility, and that's what's making the fake news outlets outraged, because the White House press is going to be the most visible press outlet in the world, because everyone is watching the White House. And whenever they say something on CNN, the White House is going to counter the fake narrative in real time. We've seen it with the X account that the White House created that essentially gives you the real-time releases and press conferences. They are not waiting on CNN or TDSBC to spin the narrative. Whenever President Trump is making a speech and they talk over the points he's making, they are not letting that happen, and it's frustrating them. I think I like that. Let me know what you think in the chat. All right. So I always want to approach this from a common sense perspective, because if a reporter who wrote that Biden was 100% fine after he tripped up the stairs, okay, 3 times, all right, I have that video. I'm going to play that video. Okay, I have that video. Like, I am beyond frustrated right now that we're still talking about this. We have these people stand in front of the mic and tell us that the things that we saw, that we didn't see them. We didn't see Biden tripping up, falling up the stairs. I mean, I've mentioned it several times, and whenever I mention it, it's like I ask myself, did I really see Biden falling up the stairs? Like, and then I see the videos, I'm like, God, that actually happened. And the mainstream media told us that it never happened. Okay, so I'm going to just play that video real quick, and then let me know your thoughts in the chat. Let me know what you think about the stories we've covered so far in the chat, because right now, you know, it's really all about what you think. We could present you with all the evidence, but if you if you think otherwise, it would be great to have a conversation. If you support it, what's your perspective? What are the other thoughts that you have? I would love to know what you think about that in the chat. All right. All right. So we've covered Hakeem Jeffries and his fantastic threat. Where, look, I'm not going to let anyone gaslight me to say, well, we know that he doesn't mean it. He's not preemptively assuming guilt. We're not going to be deceived anymore, you know, by those claims. All right. So here's President Joe Biden, sharp as a tack, fit as a fiddle, outworking all of the interns. He was running rings around them. He wasn't in mental decline. He's in, how dare you, you know, suppose that he's in mental decline? Here he is, active and athletic. One, two, three. You know, and now TDSBC has this doctor, Vin Gupta, say that President Trump didn't respond when someone fainted in the Oval. And that's why he thinks he's in cognitive decline. These guys are just hypocrites, and they're full of it. All right, guys. Let's talk in the chat. I do have some comments to go over. So while you're putting together your thoughts in the chat, I will be going over the comments in the comment section. All right. We had quite a few conversations in the comment section, and I'll just be going over a handful of them. All right, so let's see. There are a few comments that I'm not going to be taking. I'm not going to be reading them because I don't know, they might violate YouTube's policies. So let's not this one. All right, so Evan Ingersoll says, so enforcing the law is terrorism according to Democrats. Law enforcement is the Gestapo. Wow, what a crash out. Yeah. We have these statements. Look, there's no way the Democrats can say they didn't mean these things. We've heard them say it. We've heard them repeat these lines again and again. And we've heard them call the National Guard the Gestapo. The statements of Jasmine Crockett saying that they were the slave patrol. It's crazy that anyone would hear all those things and think, well, yeah, we want more of that. Let's keep going. All right, I'm not going to read this, but I'm going to leave it on the screen, okay? Tree Biadicus said this because, of course, this was in response to the shooting of the National Guardsman. And then there's one thumbs up there. Well, someone seems to agree with that. Okay, so let's see. A response from this live stream where we announced the passing of the first National Guardsman who succumbed to her injuries. T. Patterson says, enforcing the law, keeping Americans safe from crime, and you Democrats calling for violence against Americans and being violent thugs. You are terrorists. All right. Now, you're hearing me read out these comments. Let me know what you think about, or if you agree with these comments that I'm reading. Okay. So let me know your thoughts about, what they're saying in the comment section. Because to be honest, if you are a common sense individual and you're looking at the reaction that the Democrats are having to law enforcement in cities, and you know what, the minority communities that the Democrats claim to want to support, they claim that these communities are at the heart and soul of the Democrat Party. They want to be the party of understanding and compassion, and yet the law enforcement that is desperately needed in these communities is being withheld because of disastrous Democrat policies. People are getting killed, property is being destroyed, and they claim, well, everything is under control. So what do you think about that? Let me know in the chat. Now, Patricia Buck 4299 basically let loose in the chat after she watched the video announcing the attack on the National Guard. All right, her first comment was, militarized ICE? I don't think so. If they truly were, there would be no interference from civilians as they carried out their mission. The only scared people in these cities are those who do not want to lose their cheap labor workers and those who know they are not supposed to be here because they came into the United States illegally. How is that hard to understand? When you see someone running cover for criminals, assaulters, and illegal immigrants, and their politicians go out of their way to fly to other countries and call those illegal immigrants their constituents, you know what party they are. They are the party of criminals, of assaulters, and of illegal immigrants. All right. It's really that simple. If you can't understand it, it means that you're coping so hard because that one policy that they support that caters to your freaky habits is more important to you than protecting a nation that gives you the freedoms that allows you to engage in those freaky habits. Because what you guys don't understand is that once you bring in these people who want to transform what your country looks like, all right, they're going to make you their next target. They're going to get rid of you because they can't stand people with those freaky habits. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Patricia continues. You have to understand Democrats don't care what their lies are. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to, the punctuations are all over the place or non-existent. You have to understand Democrats do not care that their lies are discovered and proven to be lies. Their goal is to create as much damage as possible before the truth comes out. Like this woman is cooking. All right, this woman is cooking. Wow. And she looks like she's been around, for a few years, and she's watched the Democrats do this. Their goal is to create as much damage as possible before the truth comes out. Now, do you want to allow the Democrats cause as much damage as they can before the truth comes out? Or do you want to head them off and prevent them from creating chaos by voting in the right people? And who are the right people? People that bring in common sense policies, essentially keeping the insanity out of the United States. All right, let me know in the chat. It is a proven fact that people who are gullible will continue to believe the lies, even when facts prove they are lies. Wow. I thought I was the only one who was noticing the insanity, but I've met a couple of you, I've talked with some of you, and you guys are essentially have been seeing the same thing. I thought there was something wrong with me. Okay. The damage done is worth the lies they tell. Oh my goodness. Like, she is cooking. She is cooking. Now, she's still talking. Okay, I'm going to just take a look. Okay, so let me know your thoughts in the live chat. I want to read your comments in the live chat before we're done, okay? I want to read your comments in the live chat. All right, so she continues reading here. Now, this comment, I'm going to ignore this because should I read it? Okay, I need to keep her train of thought. She's stringing together her thoughts on this. And I'm wondering if this is all on the same video. It's all on the same video. She's articulating her thoughts and just making, she's writing a tome, but she's making sense. All right, so she continues, Mayorkas, just remember the packed planes of last-minute flights out of Afghanistan. No one was vetted before they were loaded onto crowded planes. Remember the people, 2,000 American citizens and real Afghan people who worked with our military left to face the Taliban on their own. The mainstream media glazed over this. Oh no, it was unavoidable. The Biden administration were executing Trump's plan. That's what they did. Don't you recall that they did that? They botched the evacuation of the troops from Afghanistan, the troops and assets from Afghanistan, and then they blamed it on Trump, claiming that was his plan. It's crazy, guys. Like, just remembering the last the 4 years, the Biden years, it was like living in the Twilight Zone. Okay, it was like today I had a strange dream. I'm gonna just mention it. I had this strange dream where I was aware that I was dreaming. I was aware, like I was in the dream. I had glasses on in the dream, and then I had this leaf on my glass. It was like the wind was blowing and it was wet, and a leaf stuck on my spectacles, and I was like, I think I'm dreaming. And then I took off my spectacles in the dream just to do a test to see if I was dreaming, and I could still see the leaf hanging there. It's like these glitches in video games. I could still see the leaf. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm dreaming. And you know what I proceeded to do? In the dream, conscious that I was dreaming, I began to do some superhero shenanigans because I knew I wasn't going to die. I was like, okay, I'm going to climb this cliff face. I'm going to jump from this rock to this rock. And then to a point, it was like, okay, I need to wake up. And I began to struggle to wake up. Have you ever been in those dream states where you're dreaming, you're trying to wake up, and you're kind of stuck? Okay, it was, and if you don't know how to wake up, you can get scared, because sometimes it's like, oops, I can't wake up, someone help. Okay, so I woke up and I was like, oh, well, that was fun. Just knowing you're dreaming and knowing that, okay, while you're here, you might as well. Okay, so back to my thoughts. Looking at everything that we saw during the Biden years, we saw all of the stuff going on. We saw all of the lies, the gaslighting, the misinformation, calling us conspiracy theorists. And in the end, it all turned out that we were right. Everything we saw was correct. All right. She continues. All right. I'm trying to catch the chat in. There's something blocking the. All right. Sorry about that. There's something in the way. Okay. There's something in the way, so I couldn't see a part of my screen that I needed to cover. All right. So under immigration law, decisions by an immigration court ruled by an immigration judge following immigration law orders a removal. That removal does not need a warrant. The process has already been accomplished, and it is handed over to ICE to locate that person and to remove them from the country, to deport them. There is no warrant. No one is being arrested. People are being detained until a flight is arranged for them to be transported back to the country of origin. Maybe we should deport all illegal aliens who cross the southern border back to Mexico, where they entered from. That would save us a lot of money and would involve ground transportation, which is a lot cheaper. Mexico allowed them to travel through Mexico to reach our southern border. They should bear the brunt of deportation results. Have you seen those videos where the Mexicans are deporting people who are in Mexico illegally? Have you seen those videos? All right. And those protesters who behave like the United States is doing something egregious by telling people to, either self-deport, or when they get detained, they're leaving. They behave like that is a human rights violation. I don't know. It's just infuriating to see these things play out and how the mainstream media normalizes insanity. Because it is insane for someone to read what immigration law says, turn around and say, well, Trump and ICE are dehumanizing people because of the way they are being arrested. And then they put together these videos of people who are resisting arrest. They know that they're about to be detained. They don't want to go back to their countries of origin, but they fight back and they get violently subdued and arrested. So it just doesn't make any sense. I think Mexico. So okay, hold on. We have Canary King in the chat. So let's hear. Canary King says, "My feeling around Mexico and further south is that it is our backyard. So we should be a lot more active." Yeah, but for 4 years under Biden, the border was essentially non-existent. How are you going to get 10 million people, and that is a conservative number? How are you going to get 10 million people out of the country who broke in illegally? Okay. If now there's a report that Trump has said that he has said that he's shutting down all immigration requests. I don't know if he means visitor visas and everything. I don't know if that's what he means as well. I haven't examined it, but look, I'm not surprised. Okay. And to be honest, I had the same sentiment the first time around when he said the same thing during his first term, that there were going to be that there was going to be a slowdown on immigration from other countries, especially third world countries, where vetting these people who were coming into the United States wasn't possible. And people were losing their minds in Nigeria. They were calling him racist. And I said to them, I lived in Nigeria at the time, and I said to them, look, he's right. You can't have dangerous people come into your country who don't have any plans of making the country better or safer. All they want to do is come in and leech. They don't bring any value. They come with crime, or they come with different things that the country doesn't need. And President Trump is saying, we don't need you to come here and make things more difficult than they already are. Stay where you are. Fix your own countries. I told them, what's wrong with that? They were like, no, he's racist. And you know what? Till today, people still believe that he's racist. And I'm like, what are you guys thinking? What are you guys smoking? Canary King again says, the Monroe Doctrine was established with the understanding that our hemisphere must be under our watchful eye. We don't want China or a Russia playing next door. Democrats have said things that concern me. I heard one of them, essentially saying that they didn't understand why Trump wants to show the world that America is so strong militarily, that it sends a chilling effect to our allies. We don't want them to feel intimidated. I couldn't believe my ears. We have idiots, essentially, in Congress who want America to appear weak and vulnerable, and they want the enemies of the United States. And if you guys don't think you guys have enemies, you have another thing coming. You have enemies. You have North Korea. You have China. Russia is like leaning towards just going back to Cold War, being like they were during the Cold War. And it's not that they don't spy on the United States. They still spy on the United States. Every one of them does, because they want to know what you're planning against them as well. They all plan, they all spy, and if they see one opportunity, one show of weakness, they will take advantage of it. Okay? So these people want the United States to be weak, vulnerable. I don't know. Like, it's baffling to me. I'm trying to conceive why it is that they think that way. I'm trying, sometimes to understand the person on the other side of the aisle. You need to kind of put yourself in their shoes. And I've put myself in their shoes. And I'm thinking to myself, at least you should have a degree of self-preservation. If any of these people take over the United States for any reason, or they become more powerful than the United States for any reason, where do you think that puts you? You know, I'm just trying to think and imagine what they're thinking. Kanarikin says, it's crazy that we outsource in faraway China when we could have low-level manufacturers in Central America. I don't know. I don't want to rag on Democrats like I have been. Like, I'm tempted to just keep ragging on Democrats and continue to wail on them, to just say, look, these guys are just evil, they're ignorant, they don't know what they're doing. You know, outsourcing manufacturing to the extent that the United States has, okay, has been one of the most insidious decisions that have been made in the last 100 years, in my opinion. The most insidious, because only a producing country or a producing economy, okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't saying that right. A producing economy is a strong economy. Once you outsource all of your production to a different country and all you're doing is consumption, you're no longer a strong economy. How the United States has made it, I think, is largely based on the petrodollar. The fact that the dollar has been the medium of exchange internationally for the last 80 years or more. All right. That has been the key to preserving the hegemony of the US empire, because no, guys, let's not get it twisted. The United States is an empire. But now you're losing grip on it, and the world is seeing the chinks in the armor, and it is because of some of these outlandish ideas being pushed by both Democrats and some rhinos. Okay. Let's keep going. Also, by moving jobs from China to Central America, we can lessen the illegal immigration. I agree. To an extent. Now, when you say Central America, do you mean south of the border? If you mean south of the border, I don't know what that would look like, because some of the countries south of the border tend to be very cozy with China. So, you're still using what the Democrats want you to believe is slave labor, but then again, it's neither here nor there. Bringing manufacturing to Central America is way better than strengthening China. I don't know, the policy decisions on that kind of branch off into several directions. For example, now I just need to know if you mean south of the border or inside of the United States itself. Because if it's south of the border and you're pushing as much manufacturing south of the border like you did to China and grow the economy and the strength of countries south of the border, question, will they become as cocky and as hostile as China has become currently? In the past, they were like weaker, the economy was in the gutters, and you know, there was the international trade agreement that was signed by Clinton, and then they began to get wealthy. At one point, Japan was basically wealthier than they were. And I think after that agreement was signed and most of the manufacturing and factories basically outsourced their work to China, their economy got strong over, you know, the last, was it 30 years or so? So if that happens to the countries south of the border, would they have the current attitude that China does in 30 years? I don't know. Just let me know what you think in the chat. If you're listening to this, please let me know your thoughts in the chat, okay? We're live streaming on YouTube and Kick, Twitch, and on Rumble. So 5 platforms. So please let me know your thoughts, because I'm really trying to think these things through as well, because sometimes it's really interesting, you know, to watch these things and to have your opinion. But let's play chess for a while. what would it look like if we did this instead, and then try and see what it looks like in 20, 30 years. Would we have a country as strong as China is south of the border? Now looking at us like, okay, now we can go toe to toe with you. I mean, it's just a thought. I'm just wondering. All right. The excuse the excuse they use is that labor costs are cheaper in China. How about Central America? How much cheaper? That's another question. I think in Central America, if you pay the same minimum wage that companies who hire these undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants to work in their farms and companies and so on, and you pay the same rate in these factories south of the border, I think it might be helpful, especially if those companies are run by American interests. That means, yes, it's domiciled in that country, but Americans ensure that those companies are run properly. Because, to be honest, the third world would not be the third world if they knew how to run things. Okay? If they knew how to run things, the third world would not be the third world. Let's just be honest about it. Now, some people will come up to say, well, there's the sabotage that the CIA has been accused of when countries get too big for their britches. Those conversations happen. We've heard of them, but do they still happen today? Is it still something that could possibly take place today in this time? Right? That's what I'm thinking. Okay. It's always good to ask these questions. I like the fact that we're kind of asking these questions, and I'm not taking any position. I'm not holding to any position with what we're talking about. I'm just curious, what would it look like? Let's do a 2-hour collaboration on manufacturing. Do you mean right now? If you want to come in, dude, I can send you an invite right now, unless you're putting the kids to bed. I can send you an invite right now and we can talk about this, okay? Because I'm kind of thinking through this. I'm like, what would it look like? If you want me, I can send you an invite link. You can jump in and we can just kind of spitball these scenarios and then just see what it looks like. Okay. And if you're watching and you're curious, look, we have a call-in feature. We haven't used it because it's mostly used for members of the channel, of the YouTube channel. But maybe someday, if I see a way to kind of bring it in where people in the chat can actually use the link and call in. In fact, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to put the link. Yeah. All right. Okay, I can coming in for that. Yeah, so let's talk about that. Later. Okay, so we're bringing this plane to a land. Like, it's weird how sometimes the live streams can run in a certain direction, because I was like, okay, we've talked about the news, but here's this thing that I'm thinking, and it just goes in this direction. China has 1 billion people. Belize has less than 1 million. Nicaragua has 7 million. How cocky can you get if you have a smaller population than Massachusetts? You're right. You have a thought. That's good. I like it. We can create terms under the Monroe Doctrine. If you come into our ecosystem, you can't get cozy with China and others. Yep, true. It's all about smart policy making, and that is what these people in Congress are hired to do. Yes, you voted them in. That's called hiring them. They're hired to think smart like this. Why is it that we're not getting these kinds of permutations? I think it is not that they're not capable of it, but they've chosen a different route. I think that's one. Okay. It's weird, but sometimes it's more like, why doesn't this work? But we're not in the kitchen with these guys. We're not in the kitchen with these guys. We don't know what monsters are chained behind the backyard until you get elected, and then you're taken to the backyard and you're like, oh, here's what we've got chained in the backyard. Our hands are tied. We can't exactly do these things that we thought we could do. Okay. It's kind of like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. When they were free agents, they could jump on podcasts and scream about Epstein files and talk about the establishment and the deep state. So now that they're in government, they're very subdued. It's kind of like that. You go in there, you see what's really going on, and then you're like, oh crud, this is bad. Maybe that's what happened to them. Okay, yeah. So yeah, not right now. All right. So I think we had a good live stream today with some of the stuff we talked about. I would love to have more of you who are watching to engage and to essentially help with some of the thoughts that you have. Well, Connecticut says Cash doesn't seem bright to me. No, I think Cash is bright when it comes to the bureaucracy that happens in the DOD and the DOJ. He was in the FBI, DOJ, DOD. He was in there during the first Trump administration. So I don't think it's that he's naive. I think Cash himself is also a political, not a strategist, but he played his hand well in Washington. He was already someone who was in the first Trump administration. He was never going to be accepted among the regular Republicans, that's the establishment Republican Party. So he stayed with the MAGA movement. He stoked those flames. He hung around people who were influencers in the movement. His name was on everyone's lips. He sang the Epstein Files song. I think, and I'll say this not in a tongue-in-cheek way. I'm saying this just knowing that, okay, this is what politicians do. I think he played the Epstein Files fiddle because he knew that it was something that the MAGA movement would like. They liked the fact that he was unjustly targeted. The prosecutions that took place with the January 6th committee and so on, he brought in a lot of insights on what happened during January 6th. He was trusted by the MAGA movement, and he wrote a book, about people in the FBI who essentially went after Trump and how complicit they were. He played his cards right, and when Trump came back, he was rewarded, by being tapped as a director of the FBI. So I think he played his game right. So I don't think it's about being naive. I think he's also a politician. All right. We have them on the left, and we definitely have them on the right, and we have them in MAGA. We do. So that's why I keep saying, let's be awake to what's going on so that we're not pawns in someone else's game. Vivek is another one that talks and talks and talks, and all that comes out is hot air. Vivek is a businessman who's trying to break into politics. He got people's attention because he was willing to say things that many people weren't willing to say. He stood up to DeSantis. He stood up to now what's her name? Her face is anywho, you know who I'm talking about, the only woman who was running as a Republican candidate. And he impressed, but he also played his cards right by backing Trump, by dropping out of the race and backing Trump. I think he made some investment financially to do that run, but it positioned him to kind of have a seat at the table. And now I think he wants to run as governor of Ohio, and I think he may have Trump's endorsement, which is a good move. So All of them are strategists. Look, guy, personally, I wouldn't play some of the games that they play. It doesn't sit well with me, but somebody has to play those games. If it's not you or me, then it has to be them. And some of them are quite sharp. Okay. Has Cash actually done anything except talk? Well, I saw a report from the DOJ, from Pam Bondi, everyone's favorite AG, and she said that Cash had actually been responsible for not several, but quite a number of arrests across the country. Child traffickers, people who essentially were not harboring, but they were keeping minors who were being used in the trafficking trade. And, she said a bunch of things. And I'm like, well, maybe we'll look at that and take a peek at those achievements at some point. There are all these claims, but the sad thing is that people are looking for the high profile explosions, like the James Comeys, the Letitia Jameses, all those big names. They want to see John Bolton, perp walked. I mean, like those kinds of things are sexy. Those are the things that people want to see, that shows that this person is doing their job. And I think that they will not be able to accomplish those, because you don't rise as high as a John Bolton or a James Comey or even a Letitia James without understanding how the game is played. They're going to hide things. They're going to have deals being made. Look, while they're out there, it's like WrestleMania, okay? It's like wrestling. You have these people running around, screaming and looking like they're arch enemies, but maybe they're having a pizza in the back. Maybe Letitia James is calling Trump and saying, well, we had to, we played it right, okay? Okay, and everyone knows, okay, so they're playing the heel, and MAGA is the new baby face. All right, these are the guys, these are the good guys, they're the bad guys. It's all a part to everyone. What do you think? Do you think I'm going too far with this? Because to be honest with you, I think we need to be skeptical about everything and everyone. I'm not, because sometimes I look at the news and I think to myself, is any of this real? Because if all of these things are true, the world should be on fire by now, because all of this incompetence and insanity is so unreal. Let's see. By the way, I heard a rumor that the Treasury Secretary is the guy that gave Elon a black eye. Yeah, I heard that rumor a couple of weeks after the black eye. I heard that rumor, and it's like, man, Scott Bessent did that. I heard that too. Is there any chance that it could be true, or is it just gossip? It's likely that it's possible. It's possible. I heard it on several platforms, and I think the people who said it have access. They have access. And they confirmed that it was Scott that gave him the black eye. Let's see. John Bolton is a traitor. I don't know, guys. Innocent until proven guilty. Let's take that posture. All right. It's good for our heart. It's good for our mental health. It's good for our mental health. Because do you know what? Maybe we should have a wrestling theme when we talk about these guys. Okay. The heels and the baby faces. The Democrats are the heels. And then, the baby faces are the MAGA Republicans. We need to do that so that we can have a clear look at what's really going on. That guy's a badass. Yeah, Scott is it's like, and do you know what? He looks like he could he could actually take Elon. Like, have you seen his build? Okay, he looks like he could take Elon. All right, good night, Canarican. All right, so I am thinking to myself, okay, now I have a few people who are still on Kick and Twitch. I have several on X Roads, and I have a few on the main channel. So, guys, all right, so the person who made the chat exciting will be going to bed right now. So if you guys want me to stay on and talk about some of these things that I've been covering, okay, the policy conversations, the situation with, or is there something else that you want to talk about? All right, is there something else you want to talk about? I am willing to stay on and just have a conversation with you. So good night, Canarican. I'm willing to stay on a bit to have a conversation with you. I am really curious because do you know what? One of the things that drove me to start talking about news and politics was the fact that at some point last year, the news cycle was affecting my mental health. It bothered me, and I would look at the news feed on my phone and my heart would be racing. I was genuinely concerned for where the world was going, and for the sake of my kids, I was getting to that point where I was getting terrified of the world my kids would be inheriting. And then I began to look into ways I could cope with all of that. And I found out that actually fact checking and looking at the truth of these stories would do me good. And I began to do it, and I began to unpack it. And the more I've done it, I've begun to separate my emotions from the news. It's not always easy to do because sometimes it is the news cycle is so outrageous that it's hard to separate yourself from what's going on in the news. It's hard to just do that. But what I want to do with you guys is to kind of figure out how to look at the news and make the news both informational and be entertained by it somehow. Somehow find it entertaining. And that's why I'm using the heels and baby face framing for the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. I'm not a comedian by any stretch of the word, but I want us to have the mindset that we're here to cover the news, look at what's going on, and then give some common sense takes on the news, and then do it to an extent in a light-hearted way. It's okay if we get really upset and vent, but I don't want us to stay upset and vent. I want us to be able to get to that point where we just look at things and we form our own system of breaking down the news in the chat. And that's why I'm really big on asking you guys to let me know your thoughts in the chat. The chat for me is the reason for the live stream. Okay, so I know that there are people who join the live stream and they want to get updates. I am not a news channel. I am not a man on the street guy who goes out with a mic to interview people. I'm a guy who's looking at the news like you do, giving my thoughts on what's going on. I make assumptions, I make predictions. Some of them come true, like the predictions that I made about the Democrat Party beginning to insinuate illegalities of Trump's actions after they released that video with the Seditious Six. Okay, the tag team, the Seditious Six, they sound like a tag team in WrestleMania. So they released that video, they poisoned the well, and then they want every one of us to get outraged and to begin to look for Trump's illegal orders, criminal orders. I'm yet to find one. when they're asked where these illegal orders are, they can't name one. But today, we've seen at least one report that is saying that the strikes on the narco boat was illegal. We have Mark Kelly pointing to a statement that President Trump made on the campaign trail during a debate in 2016, saying that he said that then. Okay, it's almost like pointing at me when I was 17 and making claims that I was making that I wanted to buy a jet. Like there were things I wanted when I was much younger. Today, I don't want those things. There was a time in my life where I wanted to be so rich I could get a jet. I don't want those things anymore. I don't. I'm not interested. There was a time in my life when I wanted to buy a Harley and do a road trip across the country on a Harley. Today, I can't even imagine myself thinking that way, even though I could get a Harley. I could. I had somebody when I worked at the trucking company, I had one of the guys who wanted to help me get a Harley. I said, no, I can't even see myself. He owned one. He's a Harley enthusiast. He was trying to get me into the notion of getting a Harley too. And I was like, no, I can't even see myself on a Harley anymore. But when I was 25, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a Harley. There are things you say when you're younger. And in politics, 9 years is like an eternity. 11 years is like, it's like an eternity. And Mark Kelly was pointing to something that Trump said 11 years ago, saying that, well, he said that means that he wants to do something illegal. Trump said that before he got into office. He didn't even know, he didn't expect to win. He was basically entertaining America, and America wanted an entertainer in the White House. and he got in, and he was shocked that he won. So guys, we're seeing all of the things that I predicted. And one of the things that pleases me about our ability to have these conversations is that we can simply sit down and just spitball, talk about things. Yes, we could talk about what's going on currently in the news. Well, we should also talk about things that are going on for us or in our lives. If you're struggling at this point, if there's something going on in your life, somehow the news is connected to it, we can talk about it in the chat as well. If you're dealing with things economically as a result of these policies, we can talk about it as well in the chat. For example, I lost my job. Why did I lose my job? I became redundant because Trump signed this nice document called the exit from the Paris Accord. He signed an executive order extracting the United States from the Paris Accords. It affected the price of fuel, not just in the United States, but it triggered a chain reaction here in Canada where the carbon tax was removed, the cost of fuel plummeted, and my job was redundant. I wasn't needed anymore because my job was to keep an eye on the cost of fuel. It was critical that somebody was full-time looking at that. Once that happened, it was, I wasn't necessary anymore. If anyone should be a diehard, rabid, frothing at the mouth, anti-Trump guy, it should be me. Policies have consequences, but I trust that these policies long-term will be good for not just the United States, but good for everyone. I believe the world was being ripped off by the carbon tax. That is me. I believe that. And the fact that the carbon tax was removed shortly after the US exited the Paris Accords was proof positive that it was all a scam, just like Trump said, and just like many people believed. So these policies affect everyone. I love Trump's policies, but they affected me in a way that I didn't see coming. But you know what? I looked at it and I said, well, it's fair. Should I keep my job simply because You have millions of people across North America who are being forced to pay a carbon tax. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair. It got me a job. I'm grateful that I had that job for a while, but I don't think it's fair that people are put through the ringer because of bad policies. So if I lose a job because of a bad policy being revoked, which gave me a job, I should be glad that something that's a net good for the world happened. And you know what? I believe that something good will happen for me eventually. I believe that because if I'm on the right side of things, I believe that things will work out eventually. And now I'm essentially a full-time YouTuber as a result of that. Okay. So we can talk about all of these things. Tell me what you think in the chat about the stories, the headlines, the things that you're seeing. If there's a story that you think I should get the video and play and we can look at it together, guys, I'm open to it. I'm totally open to it. The first 30 minutes of this live stream, we covered the stories that, that I essentially felt were important for us to look at. Okay. So, if you're still here, if you're a human, Asmon Gold has been talking about the bots that have been invading Twitch, that essentially most of the big streamers on Twitch are propped up by bots. So sometimes I look at the view count and I'm like, am I looking at bots here? Am I talking to bots? And that's why essentially you letting me know your thoughts in the chat is also a huge deal for me, because I need to know I'm talking to actual people so that we can actually share stuff. Last week, we had a beautiful moment when we covered the passing of the National Guardsman who succumbed to her injuries, Sarah. And there was a beautiful moment where the viewers in the chat shared their pain, and for me, that's a good thing. It's good for us to be able to sit together and share our pain and say, look, this hurts. I don't know why this has to be, and we can sit down and talk about these things. All right. So I don't want this to just be about the channel is categorically focused on news and politics because that's what I want to talk about. But beyond that, I want us to be able to share our thoughts and how these things affect us. Okay. All right. Patricia still goes on immigration. Now, while I'm reading Patricia's chat, all right, let me know your thoughts in the chat, and let me know your thoughts if you agree with her take and if you have other thoughts based on everything else that I've framed. I'm trying to give you guys a lay of the land. All right, let me know your thoughts. I'll bring up your chat and then we'll talk about it. Still talking about immigration, she's responding to this video where we reported on the shooting of the National Guardsman. Federal law enforcement is not a military branch. Word salad by Democrats are trying their best to change law enforcement into a military action. They know they are not members of the military. You know that. I do. One of the things that frustrates me about what the Democrats have been doing is the way they frame things so that they can have plausible deniability to say that they weren't lying, they were simply framing something, like what Jasmine Crockett did, where she accused Lee Zeldin of receiving donations from Jeffrey Epstein. I listened to the video where she did that, and she said Jeffrey Epstein gave this person a donation. And then when she was confronted on CNN, she lies and said, I didn't say he took money from Jeffrey Epstein. I said he took money from a Jeffrey Epstein. Jasmine Crockett, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, lacks the moral positioning even by Democrat standards. Okay, she's I think on the same level as Adam Schiff for me right now at this point. Maybe Adam Schiff is lower than she is because he is, he's really, really low there. He's really low. But her ability to simply lie and double down on the lie and then accuse you of being a racist if you hold her feet to the fire on that lie is nothing short of supernatural. Patricia Buck yet again says, the National Guard needs to be moved from state control to federal control. They have national in their title for a reason, to guard the entire country from internal enemies. Okay, so my resident policy expert has gone to bed. Well, I think the National Guard was, okay, I'm doing this course on the US Constitution. I'm going to leave my thoughts on this until I'm through with the course. There are things I don't know. But if you know anything about why the National Guard was put under state control, let me know in the chat. I just need to, I am curious. Like I said, I'm taking a course on the Constitution, the US Constitution. And I really want to know what I'm talking about when I'm covering these things. So let me know in the chat if you have information that would help me understand why the National Guard is under state control and not federal control. States who think they are about the federal government need to relearn this. Oh, okay. I think she means above. States who think they are above the federal government need to relearn this. In the complex landscape of United States governance, the balance of power between federal and state authorities presents a dynamic narrative of diverse legal interpretations and historical precedents. Central to this narrative is the Supreme Court, the Supremacy Clause of the US Constitution. Again, like I said, I'm taking a course on the Constitution and I'm loving it. Tucked into Article 6, the Supremacy Clause ensures that federal law takes precedence over state laws and even state constitutions. Look at that. And so when you hear the likes of Pritzker, Governor Pritzker, saying some of the things he says, it's like you're trying to go toe-to-toe with the federal government. And in order to justify the fact that they're going toe-to-toe with the federal government, they call President Trump illegitimate. They try to use that as a means to depreciate his authority over the state. Okay. All right. So that's the end of her chats. She's Patricia, I hope you subscribe to the channel because I mean your chats are amazing. I'm going to leave a comment and hope that she subscribed to the channel. All right, so it's late over here, and I would like to thank you all for sticking around for the live stream. The essence of the live stream is the chat. And if the chat has gone to bed, the live stream essentially has gone to bed, in my opinion. Okay. There's only so much that I can do or say to carry you guys along. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is that you are able to express yourself in the chat and share your thoughts so that we can all learn together. That is essentially why we're here. So I want to thank you for the comments, Canary Kin, for sending in your thoughts in the chat. Now, if you're interested in sending us email or ideas that you would like to suggest for the show, you can send them to the email address that's appearing on the screen right now. We live stream every day at noon and 9 p.m. Eastern. We stream essentially for about an hour. Today we've gone over by about 35 minutes because we were having a conversation which was quite enlightening for me, at least. And I would love to be able to have more of these conversations because we need to be educated about the political process, about some of these policy decisions and how they cascade down to the regular guy, and have these conversations without all of the outrage and all the misinformation that tends to come when political rhetoric is being used. I want us to be able to do this together in the chat. And essentially, like I said much earlier, the show is empowered by the chat. I don't know if it's a naive position for me to take. All right. At this point, I have two choices. I have a bunch of other stories that I'm like, should I just jump into these other stories? But I think, I've been calling for engagement in the chat, and I can see you guys are watching and like, you guys are sleepy. So I'm going to just end it here. Tomorrow, we're going to be back at 12 noon Eastern. We're going to be diving into some of these stories. I would love to have you in the chat. Consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video. If you enjoyed the easygoing flow of the conversations we've had here, please consider subscribing if you're on YouTube, following if you're on Twitch or Kick. And if you want to donate to our cause, all right, I'm going to just post the link. I forgot to put up the link because I was too busy focusing on prepping for the show. There's a donation link that I would like you to consider using if you wish to support us. If you wish to send us a super chat or a super thank on the YouTube side, please feel free to do that on the YouTube side. I am sharing the donation link right now across all platforms. Please consider sending us a donation using this link. It helps to keep the lights on. Like I said, since losing my job because Trump did such a fantastic job at crashing the price of oil. And today I did a report where the price of oil, or the price of gasoline has essentially been the lowest it's been in a while. And when I was giving that report this afternoon, I was like, this is essentially one of the things that cost me my job. And I was like, well, it's one of those things, you do such a good job and certain types of work get obsolete. So I'm not offended by it at all. But he did such a good job with the energy and so on. So consider supporting the channel with a super chat or a super thank. But the biggest support you can give is watching the show. Watching the show is the biggest support you can give. I know that I talk a lot about chatting. The chatting for me is important because I want to connect with you. I know that a time is coming on the channel when it will be impossible for me to maintain a one-on-one conversation like I did today in the chat. A time will come when I'm going to have to prioritize super chats. I know that time is coming. So I want to enjoy this season as long as it lasts. I want to be able to talk with you. You post something and I just highlight it, it pops on the screen and I talk to you. I don't want you to have to put up a super chat before I talk to you. I want to be able to talk with you right now without any obligations. But once we have thousands of people putting their comments in the chat, it's going to be humanly impossible for me to do what I have been doing over the last, I don't know how many live streams I've done since I began to live stream every day of the week. So it's going to be impossible to do that. So right now, I can do that, and I'm glad that I get to do that with you. So now that it's not, now that it's possible for me to see your chat and bring you up in the chat and talk with you, I would like to have that happen even now. But once we get to the point where it's going to be, it's not going to be practical for me to do that, I want you to know ahead of time that I will be sad when that happens, because I'll be glad that people will be willing to give a donation in order to prioritize their chat. You know, people who are in the membership, people who give their super thanks or super chats will be prioritized at that point. However, a time will come, you know, when that happens, and I will be sad because it wasn't just pure engagement where I could just talk with everyone. It's now more like I am forced to filter through the comments in the chat because there are just too many. So I just want you to know that ahead of time. All right. The YouTube algorithm is changing. The channel is going to explode. It's going to grow. We're going to see that level of growth, and I'm hoping that you're going to be here for it. I would love to have you here for it. I would, you know, love you to be here along for the ride, and I would love to be on a first name basis with everyone as much as I can. All right, so guys, we've gone through the stories, we've gone through the chat, we had a rich conversation, and you know what? It was a beautiful evening. Canarican left a final message, enjoyed the live stream, you know, so I hope from what you've watched so far, you've enjoyed it, and it's something that you'll be willing to come back to tomorrow. Until next time, God bless you, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon.